Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today we have the most special guest here. We have my wife, Stacey Masliansky, and everyone can be quiet about calls of nepotism, but definitely want to promote somebody who's incredibly special to me and who works here inside the Skev. And Stacey owns a business called Brainlinks Academics, and what she does is academic tutoring. And she's going to tell us all about it today and why she does it. And Stacey, thanks so much for being here.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Finally.
It's about time.
Yes, exactly. So you're a reading specialist, and some people may joke, what does that mean? Like, you're a great reader? Like, what does a reading specialist do?
Well, a reading specialist, the role can vary depending on the setting or the situation. In different school systems, it can look different. Reading specialists in many schools are overseeing the reading programs, the assessments, and the leadership of literacy programs. They also sometimes provide small group or one-on-one reading instruction for students who might be below their grade level in reading. And in a private setting, that is exactly what I do, is deliver instruction and interventions to students who are below their grade level and who need more intensive remediation for reading.
How can you tell what the issue is that's causing their issues with reading?
So there are different assessment tools that indicate, the key areas of literacy are kind of broken into 5 components. Comprehension kind of oversees everything, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of reading, is to gain meaning. But within that, there's also phonics and phonemic awareness, which is an ability to hear the smallest parts of words that broken down into sounds, which are phonemes, and being able to manipulate the sounds. And that leads into decoding, which is, actually pronouncing words and reading them. Fluency, which is your reading pace. And what am I leaving? Vocabulary. So really, through different assessment tools, you try to pinpoint where the weakness is and where the strengths are.
So then you have specialized ways of helping with people who have each of those challenges with reading.
Correct.
At that point?
Correct. So sometimes students might appear to be good readers because they are fluent and they are, decoding accurately on the page. But for them, maybe vocabulary is a struggle. And so when they end, a reading encounter, they walk away not really making any deep meaning with what they've read.
It's like they've just read it, but it's just like they just speak it out and nothing's sinking in.
Correct. It's actually, I relate my Hebrew experiences to what a student might experience with that, and that I can read Hebrew. I was trained in how to read the alphabet, but I have no vocabulary really, and so I can read the words and I have no idea what I'm reading.
Maybe got to work on that.
I guess so.
Or other languages. But,
right.
But you were in the classroom before, and then you started this company, Brainlinks. What led you to, well, first of all, why did you want to be an English teacher? Because that's what you started with. And then what led you to decide to do more one-on-one?
Yeah, that's interesting. When I entered college, I didn't necessarily see myself as a going through and finishing an education. I actually started out in psychology, which I always am interested in, but
and you're still trying to figure me out.
I'm still trying to figure you out. But I didn't know what that career would look like, and I've always been interested in helping people, and especially helping children. And I worked as a camp counselor for many years and really enjoyed, in particular, working with young adolescents. And English, I feel like, is kind of the entry point into so many aspects of the world. And it opens doors. It's a great way for people to experience others and other experiences without actually going through them, and the discussions are deep and can be meaningful. And so when I started to realize that I wanted to teach, I knew it was going to be as an English teacher in a high school setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were doing freshman year English for 8 years, right?
Yeah, I taught freshman English for 8 years. I taught sophomore English at one point. And, it's a really special year, the ninth grade year. And
you have such patience.
Yeah, it was fun. And I enjoyed teaching in the classroom. But you asked earlier what kind of led me to where I am now with my teaching, I think.
Yeah.
And, as a classroom teacher every year, there were always a couple kids that were reluctant readers, or those that just seemed lazy or disengaged. And in hindsight now, I'm realizing that those kids were not lazy.
They were just having trouble being able to read.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, they were probably spinning their wheels, and I missed all those signs. So as time went on, and as I had our youngest, 7.5, almost 7.5 years ago, when I left the classroom, I knew I wanted to, in some capacity, still work with students, and tutoring seemed like a natural fit.
And do you get a lot of enjoyment when you see a student who wasn't able to read and then to be able to enjoy reading and start eating it up?
Oh, that's what keeps me going. I mean, that is like the aha moment, and it is so exciting, and that's the reward.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the things that you specialize in is helping people with dyslexia, right?
Correct.
So how did you become a specialist in that, and what does that entail that's different? I mean, because people think dyslexia, all the words and numbers are backwards, but that's a misconception, right?
It is. But to back up a little bit, I went through a master's in reading and went through licensing with the state of Illinois as a reading specialist, but I didn't really, to be honest, know a ton about dyslexia. It really was not covered in depth in the program that I went through. I can't speak for every teacher ed or special ed, special ed may cover it in more detail. But I really had to pursue, and it wasn't until actually I was working with a young boy who had gone through some testing and was diagnosed as having dyslexia that I realized that I needed to polish up and learn. So I went through a training course. It was it's SLANT, Structured Language Training. It's not. It's known locally in the area. It was developed by a woman who was out of National Louis for many years, and it's similar, as I say, to Wilson Reading, which is more of a nationally known or internationally known program.
But those are specialties in helping people with dyslexia.
Yeah, so it's a multisensory approach with explicit instruction of teaching a highly sequenced scope and sequence of teaching phonemes, which is basically the smallest parts of words and language.
When you do that, though, I mean, you're helping so many people unlock this secret of reading, and you see so many people that are very successful in the world who are dyslexic, and I mean it's amazing that they were able to overcome that.
Right.
But you're being able to intervene when somebody is younger.
Right.
And
thank you.
Yeah, and you can kind of get them going right away.
Yeah. So there really is the science behind it. Backing up, you had talked about the misconceptions, and yes, there is more is known now about dyslexia than decades earlier. It is not a new discovery. It has existed for decades and decades and decades.
Sure.
But what they know now is that it really does have to do with neural connections in the brain, and what I like to say is it's an inefficiency. It's a retrieval inefficiency. So students some students that present with dyslexia may be looking at, let's just say, the letter B, and they know it's the letter B, but it's like an overfilled file cabinet, as I like to say. They can't quite access the file.
They can't link up.
They can't link up to know that they know it, but they can't get it out, that it is the B sound.
Is that why you named the company Brainlinks?
So, yeah, exactly. It's all about reconnecting those links in the brain and rewiring the brain. And really the optimal time to do so is early, elementary years.
So what age ranges of people do you work with, though?
I really work with students K-12, as young as kindergarten and, all the way up. But I would say the majority of my students currently are in the intermediate grades.
Yeah. What do you enjoy more, the younger or intermediary or high school?
I can't really pick a favorite.
No?
I love it all. But what I will say is that usually in third grade is when, for some kids, the red flag goes down because there is a shift in schools at that point. It's no longer learning to read, but a shift to reading to learn, and the text gets more complex.
So then the teachers start to is that typically how it happens, where the school may recognize that the student has some challenges, and then they bring it to the parents' attention, and then they call you, or the school calls you? How does that work?
I generally, I get a lot of calls from parents who have already gone through neuropsych testing and do have a diagnosis of dyslexia.
Do you do neuropsych testing?
I do not do neuropsych testing.
Okay.
But I do reading assessments. So, if that is just the concern and there isn't a concern of any other, things going on, then, I can certainly give, and through those tests, I can determine what is the point of weakness. Is it word recognition, otherwise known as decoding, or is it more of just a vocabulary or comprehension issue that would interfere with making meaning?
And do you find that students who have problems with reading also may have problems within other subjects like math or science or history or language?
It's interesting. People, it's so funny that many students that come to me say, well, they're good in math, but they're not good in reading. But so many people out there just like to say that they're not good at math. I actually, a few years back, attended a really fascinating seminar on the language of math and why in the U.S. Students test so poorly in math. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with our language versus in other countries like Japan.
Just because English is a hard language to
I think
understand?
even when thinking about the names of the numbers, this is getting technical, but there a lot of our numbers are multisyllabic words, and also the way that we might say, 2 times 2 is a confusing sentence. Times, that word can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say 2 times 2? But if you reverse the sentence and said 2 times, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, you could see it more logically within your brain.
So, I think that always kind of leads its way into, reading leads its way into other areas of either difficulty or ease.
Yeah. So you work here out of Industrious, and you have a lovely office there, and you have a lot of different things on your shelves. You have different books, you have materials, and you also have different games.
Yeah.
So are these different types of, do you use a lot of different methods in order to be able to reach the students?
Yeah, it depends on, of course, what the focus of the goals are for that student, for each student, individual student. But, I think that there's still a lot of wonderful learning that can happen through certain interactive games.
Yeah.
And I think that, the goal is to really leave a very positive, have a very positive experience here at the office. So I usually try to make that the final activity. And, students love it.
When you first meet with students, a lot of times, I can imagine as a kid, you come in and you feel like, my God, there's something wrong with me. And I can't read, and now I've got to meet with this person, and what are they going to do? And maybe you're nervous as a child. how do you break the ice, and how do you see the students' moods shift as they go through the process with you?
Well, I always like to start just as a icebreaker interview. I ask students if they've ever been interviewed, and I just get to know them.
You can say you have now.
I can, so it really is all about building a relationship and building trust. And I don't always. I like to get to the assessment at the first initial session, so that I know as for the family as well, or for the school, what the course what the recommendations will be for that child. But, it's really important to build that trust and to kind of ease nerves early on, because as you said, a lot of the students have already gone through years in a classroom feeling inadequate or feeling stupid. Their confidence has been chipped away. And so it's all about building that back up.
Yeah, and it's all about the environment. And I think, having known you so well, I think one of the reasons why you're here at this space is so people come into a really nice environment, and the students come sit down, and it's enjoyable to be here.
Yeah. A lot of my students come, I shouldn't say a lot, a handful do come straight from school or other activities. And it's wonderful because there's always beverages available, snacks. It's very cute. A few students, they've got their routine. They come in, they go for their yogurt, they go for their LaCroix, and then they're ready to work. And it's, they really love it.
And the parents too, because the parents can sit down and relax.
I call it their own private coffee shop.
It is. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you were going to people's homes quite a bit, right?
I called myself a bag lady. Sorry if that's offensive. But I just, I have so many materials, and, I was seeing sometimes 5 students a day. And my car was just the portable office, but I was, with 3 or 4 bags, and switching them out daily, and it was a lot.
Yeah. And this way you can, be there, and you can actually meet with more students because you don't have to be traveling back and forth.
Correct.
And, do you also go to certain schools to meet with students?
I do. So I have a nice relationship with an organization in some of the Jewish day schools, and I provide tutoring for some students that qualify for certain services.
Yeah. And, do schools have their own reading specialists too? Or, what's the difference between what you provide and what some schools may provide?
I mean, I can speak for the public schools in a public school setting, yes. Again, it just it depends on the school system. Yes, districts do have reading specialists. Sometimes it's a shared specialist among a few buildings in a district. And it depends on the district setup. Sometimes they are delivering the small group or one-on-one reading interventions, and sometimes they're more viewed as a literacy coach, where they work with the classroom teachers and on delivering effective reading strategies.
Mm-hmm. But I think some of the benefit of working with you is that they have you one-on-one, and you could spend as much time as you need with them, right?
Well, and some of the students, correct. And some of the students that I do work with do get a little bit of extra reading support at school. But, I can't speak for reading specialists out there. I'm very,
sure.
They hold a special place. But I do think it is specialized in what I offer. I don't know too many students that are actually receiving the type of intervention that I'm offering in my office. Let's just say my schedule is very busy.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because your schedule is very busy, thankfully.
Yeah.
And, you have a lot of people coming in, and there's only one you. Do you have, you've been growing, so talk about that. Like, do you have other people that can help and tutor?
So I, within the last year, have brought 2 amazing tutors on board. Both have prior classroom teaching experience and advanced degrees in education, and I feel like I'm building something exciting, because they really do get to take on what I am unable to, and they're amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, they're highly qualified and they can really help. And they do have more openings right now, right?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely room in their schedules, and I'm always looking to continue to grow. So if anyone out there is listening that has background in reading and teaching reading, I'm always looking for more wonderful tutors.
You got your ears open.
Yeah.
Where do you see this business going in 5 years?
I'd like to continue to grow and reach the students that need these services. I really, something that I'm playing around with, and we haven't even discussed it off air, is
inside scoop.
I really, I love what I do, but I would love to be able to reach even more students. And I don't know exactly how this would work out or how I would go about this, but I would love to figure out a way to give back to students who maybe are low income, who don't have access to this type of a service in some capacity. Mm-hmm. So, volunteering a little bit.
Well, you do some volunteering.
I do, yes. And that's a great program. Anyone listening who has some extra time in their schedule and lives in the Evanston-Skokie area, District 65 has an amazing program called Everybody Reads. It's a fluency tutoring program. And you don't need background as a teacher or...
Oh, you don't?
No, you do not need any... And you just have to be able to read.
So what do? You read stuff to the
You
students?
read with students that a teacher has selected as needing just a little extra, one-on-one attention. And you meet weekly for about 15 to 20 minutes with a student. And, the teacher usually will provide reading passages that are appropriate for that student, and it's just giving them more opportunities to improve their fluency and to read.
Yeah. Is that, you said it's all throughout District 65, so is it like in every elementary school or the middle schools also?
At this point, I know it's in every elementary. Yeah. I am not sure if I'd have to look that up. I think it's elementary.
Yeah. And they also have reading specialists in the district as well, but you're kind of augmenting, the volunteers are augmenting some of that.
And these are
right?
students, well, when you think about how many students are in each school, and usually there might be only one or two reading specialists.
Yeah.
These are students who may not really be at a point of needing intervention, but they just might need a little extra push.
Yeah. And, what you're doing is it new in this, I guess, in this industry in terms of, the focus on how to, intervene when people have reading challenges like this?
It's not totally new, no. I'd have to go back. I know that there are other companies and organizations and programs that have been in existence for a while. Linda Moodbell is one that comes to mind. Wilson Reading has been around for a while. Orton Gillingham is another program, and actually Samuel Orton, and I can't think of Gillingham, her first name.
It's okay.
But their philosophies have given overall the understanding of the great way to intervene and give remediation for students that have challenges with dyslexia. But I would say it's catching on. I think more and more people, in the state and around the nation are realizing that dyslexia is more prevalent than people have realized. I feel like coming to the surface, people are talking about it. It's less of a taboo word to say the word dyslexia. And I really think it's empowering, actually, to use it if a student does have it, because it explains so much, and it's something you can work with. You have to identify the problem before you can fix it. Correct.
Right?
And it has nothing to do with somebody's cognitive ability.
Yeah. Well, what I found interesting was a couple of years ago, we went to the International Dyslexia Association conference in Atlanta, and you went to the sessions, and they had an expo with all the different vendors, and there's a lot of concentration to help people with dyslexia, and there's a lot of different methods. So, people, I'm sure as a parent, you look and you're like, oh my God, my kid's having trouble reading. what am I going to do? They're screwed for life. But really, there's a lot of hope out there, right?
There absolutely is. And so I believe in, early screening and advocacy all for dyslexia, really exposing what it is. And, I really would love to see, I think really the one area where I'm feeling that there needs to be a little bit of a catch up is really in teacher ed. I do feel that so many well-meaning teachers and very intelligent people don't know enough about it. And, if we could train young teachers to identify, signs, there are many early signs. And if we can train people to look for those signs and really get the right interventions or the right tools in place at an early age, it wouldn't cure dyslexia,
Sure.
but it would definitely make it so those students that have it are not struggling the way that they often do.
Do you know, we haven't really talked about this, but I'm curious. I mean, does the medical world look at dyslexia, and are they trying to figure out a medicine to alter the brain to help with that?
There
or is
isn't
there
a
only
medicine,
these types
but
of
there
methods?
are neuroscientists that do study the brain and reading and dyslexia. And I think just to understand, I actually did attend a seminar this summer with a neuroscientist. And, I can't say that really I walked out, knowing that they're working on a cure. I don't think there's a cure, but it's, trying to understand, specifically, are there predispositions for it? Because sometimes it does, as they say, run in families. But again, it's a spectrum too, I like to say. And it's debated depending on one's definition of it. But, about 1 in 5 people might have some degree.
Yeah, it's so important to identify it and to help. It was interesting. I was listening to the Axe report. He worked for the Obama administration and is big in politics. But he had Gary Cohn on, who was the chief economic advisor at first to President Trump, and he used to be the head of Goldman Sachs, major financial firm. And he talked about growing up, he couldn't read.
Yeah.
And all the teachers thought he was stupid or lazy. But he was working so hard, but he just couldn't figure it out. He later discovered that he had dyslexia. And, he's able to make himself into a great success. He probably used that as a challenge, but, it takes a unique person to be able to persevere through that. But if we could help people like you're doing, my God, you're opening up the world to so many different people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. It has nothing to do with one's intellectual ability.
No.
Yeah.
It's all about it's something going on there, and I'm thankful that you're doing this. Obviously it helps us financially the work, but you're doing good in the world. Where can people find you and reach out?
So my website is brainlinksacademics.com. And there's a lot of information there on how to reach me and about my background and services, and also on social media on Facebook. I have a page. And
this podcast is also going to be up on that website, so you guys might be listening to it there right now. So that's great. So you can learn more about the company. And I have one final question that's probably the most important question of this conversation. What's your favorite podcast?
Meaning, what's my favorite episode?
No, what's your favorite podcast?
Oh, Inside the Skev.
That's right. You answered correctly. Well, Stacey, it's been a pleasure having you on the show and having you in my life.
Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome. And everyone, thanks so much for listening, and please subscribe. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this latest episode of Inside the Skev. I hope you really enjoyed it and learned a little bit more about what Stacey does. And, if you know of anyone that needs help with reading, she could really help you. If you want to find out more about the Skev and about this podcast, go to skevinson.com. I also have a lot of information about what I do for a living, which is being a real estate agent at Dreamtown Realty in Evanston. I've got a lot of information there. But I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more, and thanks so much.